Hello everyone, my name is Karina Gonzalez and I'm a librarian. There are many different kinds of librarians and I've had the opportunity to be many different kinds of librarian. I started off as an elementary school librarian, then I was a high school librarian, and then I was a college librarian for a couple of years, and now I'm a public librarian. And they're all very different, but for me, being a public librarian, a normal day means getting to the library at around 9 o'clock, because we usually open around 9:30. I work for the Warren branch of the Somerset County Library System. And my day will usually start by checking all of my emails and then checking specifically the email of the library to see if anybody asked any questions. Because being a librarian is all about answering questions. People think it's about the books, and yeah, we have books, a lot of books, and books are awesome, and I love to read. But it's really about answering questions. So that's what I do all day. And I love it because I never get the same question twice. I get to learn about all kinds of things, constantly learning something new. Sometimes those questions are answered in emails. Sometimes they're answered in person. I will sit at what we call the reference desk, which is a special desk that anybody can come in off the street and ask a question. Sometimes I do programs. So maybe I know that there's a question that people have, so I think ahead and I'll create a program or a class that answers that specific question. So, for example, right now, I'm planning a program, a class, on how to get started listening to podcasts. I figure a lot of people are home right now, and now they have time to maybe learn how podcasts work. So I'll teach 20 or 30 people and answer all their questions at once instead of just answering one at a time. And yeah, of course, there's the books. I personally am in charge of the fiction section in the adult floor of the Warren Library. So I get to help pick which books we buy and which ones we keep. We don't keep every single book. Believe it or not, librarians throw away books because we want to make sure that the information that you have is the right information, not just any information, which means that we have to go through it all and make sure it's the right stuff for the right time. An example I always give is when I was an elementary school librarian, is when they had declassified Pluto as a planet. So I had to go through the entire library and get rid of every single book that called Pluto a planet. Then they reclassified it as a dwarf planet, and so I was at it again. Librarians are doing this constantly, and we call it weeding, because we refer to our collections of books like a garden, and we want to make sure that the healthy ones grow and the ones that shouldn't be there anymore are removed. Being a librarian is also all about people. I deal with people every single day. If you don't like people, you do not want to be a librarian. Being a librarian has a lot of stereotypes. Some people think that we're all shy, that we shush people all day, that we like books more than people, and none of that's true. You have to be a real people person to like being a librarian, because you have to deal with people all day, answering their questions and trying to help them help themselves. I did not wake up one day and realize I wanted to be a librarian. I did not have a childhood dream to be a librarian. Like a lot of people, I fell for those stereotypes, and I am not a shy person at all, so I figured that I would probably hate it. But then I started learning about it and doing my research, and when I found out that I got to do so many different things, I started to like it, because I'm one of those people that has lots and lots of different interests. I've wanted to be a marine biologist. I've wanted to be a professional opera singer. I've wanted to be a computer animator. And I have been all of these things. But I didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And being a librarian is sort of like picking the job where you don't have to pick. You get to do everything. People will come in and ask questions about calculus. People will come in and ask questions about gardening, about how to raise children, how to change a diaper, you name it. And I will have probably gotten a question about it. I think the weirdest question I ever got as a librarian was someone asked me if I like jambalaya. That was the question. What they actually wanted to know was if it was a good idea for them to open a jambalaya restaurant across the street from the library. Now that takes a lot of research and figuring out what businesses do or do not do well in a certain neighborhood. But the question started with, do you like jambalaya? To be a librarian, you need a master's degree. What that means is when you're done with middle school, and then you have 4 years of high school, then you have to go to college for another 4 years and get a bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what you get a bachelor's degree in, because there's lots of different kinds of librarians. And then you have to go back to graduate school and get a master's in library science, a master's in information science, a master's in information library science. They're called lots of different things. It depends what school you go to. Mine is a master's in information library science. And the reason why librarians need to have a master's degree is because we need to be able to answer any question. Think about that for a second. We need to kind of know a little bit about everything, and we get to learn about everything. So I don't always know the answer, but I can pretty much always tell you how to find it. I'm pretty much settled on being a librarian for life. I'm done changing careers. This was not the first career for me. I graduated with my bachelor's degree, so my first college degree is in English, and I minored in women's and gender studies, and my thesis was on science fiction. So lots of different interests there. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with any of it. I chose that degree because I found it interesting, and that was it. So for about 10 years, I wandered from job to job. I took any job that I could find. I worked in pensions, I've worked in design, I've done childcare, I've done teaching, I've done sewing, all over the place. So it took me a long time to figure out what it was that I wanted, and that's okay, But sometimes I wish that I had figured it out a little sooner, because there's so much I haven't done yet in the library field, and I'm excited about getting there. You definitely need to use time management and organizational skills as a librarian. The time management skills mostly come into play because you're dealing with people, and understandably, people want you to give them your full attention at all times, but sometimes there's a line of people that are waiting to see you. Sometimes there's a meeting you have to go to. Sometimes there's a program that you're scheduled to deliver. Sometimes you have to be in another building completely. I'm part of the Somerset County Library System, and we have 10 libraries in completely different cities. And sometimes I have to drive to different libraries on different days. So you have to become very good at realizing when it's time to stop, when it's time to say no, when it's time to move on to the next person, without making anybody feel left out, while making sure that everyone feels like you are giving them the attention that they need and deserve. Librarians generally are very organized people. It's kind of what we do. You've heard of the Dewey Decimal System, I am sure. Some libraries use a different system called the Library of Congress. A lot of your college libraries use that. But no matter what kind of library you go into, it's gonna be organized, absolutely organized. So librarians do a lot of color coding and cataloging. Cataloging meaning putting things into certain categories. So you need to use your organizational skills not only just to be a librarian, period, because we have to organize everything so that people can find it, but you also need your own organizational skills so that when your boss gives you something to do, you know what you should do first. You can figure out which email to answer first. You can know when you should do what at what time. And that takes organization. As a librarian, I have to use every single subject. Sometimes I have students with math questions. Sometimes I have engineers who are coming in and have questions about how to build blueprints for a new design. I have new business owners coming in that want to know about tax laws. I have children who come in that want to know what book they can have that has a unicorn or a dragon. I have people who come in that need monologues for theater, artists looking for inspiration, interior designers looking for how to get new clients. Every single subject is needed in order to be a librarian. Some librarians are generalists, meaning they do a little bit of everything, and some of them are more specialists. You'll find that a lot in college libraries. You will have the biology librarian. They usually have 2 master's degrees. They have a master's degree in biology, and then they have a second one in information science, because all they pretty much do is answer biology questions. But no matter what, we all have our special gifts. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a singer. So if someone has a singing question and they can't answer it generally, maybe they'll send it to me. I'm also really good at technology. So if they have a question that they can't answer involving technology, maybe they'll send it to me. That's one of the cool things about being part of a team, is we all get to learn what everybody is good at, and we can share that knowledge. So if somebody gets stuck, there's somebody there to help. To be a librarian, you need survival skills, interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, conflict resolution skills. Remember that you are dealing with the public. Sometimes people get angry, and you have to know how to de-escalate situations so that people stay calm. A lot of people come to the library as a safe place when there are storms, if they are experiencing homelessness. A lot of people first came to the libraries when they heard about COVID-19 and the pandemic because they wanted information. They wanted to know, what do I do next? What do I do if I lose my job? What do I do if I get sick? And we have to be there to help those people. And just like any job, I have a boss. I have somebody who tells me what to do, and my boss has a boss who tells her what to do. So you have to listen. You have to follow directions. You have to do it right the first time so they don't have to tell you to do it again. You have to use initiative and come up with your own ideas so that you can offer something to the team. It's a lot of sharing and communicating and trusting each other. You should consider being a librarian if you're curious, if you love learning, if you love people, if you enjoy putting things in their proper place, and if you like not knowing what's going to happen next.